Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? I reflected on that question and I rewound the tape all the way back to when I was a kid, right? I had a brother and a sister. There's three of us in the house. And that meant if something got broken or if someone ate the last piece of cake, there was a good chance that mom or dad was going to point the finger at me, and then I could go, wasn't me. But yeah, I don't know. You ever have those kind of experiences? Folks with only children, they don't know. Anyway. Yeah, who broke the lamp, right? Who ate the last piece of cake? Wasn't me. I don't know. We look back on these moments, and for the most part, we laugh, right? Parenting leads to gray hair or to no hair. But perhaps you face something more egregious. Some accusations are more serious, some more deadly. And asking a question like that might bring up some memories where you go, oh my goodness, that was a scary time when I was accused of something. Have you ever been falsely accused of something? If you haven't watched the little mini-series on Netflix, When They See Us, it should be on your watch list. Now, you've got to be in the right frame of mind to watch it because it's painful and it'll make you angry. I get angry when I see injustice, especially along racial lines, and this is a classic case. 5 boys, juveniles, who were falsely accused of raping and killing a woman. And in Central Park, they were called the Central Park 5. And, to watch this story unfold and to watch injustice after injustice be perpetuated on these young people was hard. It makes me angry. I think it makes God angry. There's a holy anger where God says human beings should not treat human beings like that. False accusations led to false arrests, led to false prosecution, false imprisonment. Eventually they found out and they were exonerated. All of them were found innocent, but not before they had faced some horrors, especially the oldest boy, horrors being placed as a juvenile in an adult prison. Horrors of stuff happening to these boys. It's hard to watch, but I think it's necessary for our journey. If we're going to be the kind of church that really embraces and stands against racism, then we've got to understand some of what's been going on in our world. I think about that, though. I also think about us, having to watch Jesus, right, on Good Friday. And he was given a death sentence, false accusation, false arrest, false prosecution. All of it leading to his death. And maybe we've become inoculated to it because we've heard it so many times or we know the story. But, to experience it and to realize what Jesus was doing and what he was offering in that moment is pretty powerful. This series is going to lead us through the conflicts that Jesus faced throughout his ministry. When I think about Jesus on the cross, I'm always like rewinding the tape just far enough to go to his trial, right? When he's standing before Pilate and what he's being accused of by the Jews to get him on that cross. And yet, really, you should rewind the tape all the way back to the beginning of his ministry. Jesus was constantly being accused of breaking the commandments, breaking God's laws, almost from the day his ministries began. And these conflicts are the stories we're going to explore this Lent. It's a season for us to kind of go back and realize that, that Jesus was offering a new way. And folks who liked the old way didn't want to have anything to do with it. And with that new way was coming a question of his authority. You need to go back to our Ash Wednesday service, our devotion. Again, if you haven't watched that, you really do need it. It sets the groundwork for this whole series. So you can watch that on YouTube. But, we talked about Jesus being accused of blasphemy. Why? Because he claimed to be God. He was God. He identified. He knew he was God's son. And yet those people around him couldn't see it. And so when he made statements that elevated himself alongside God, those other folks then pointed their finger and says, no, that's blasphemy. They couldn't see it. And that's really the essence of all of this. Because if we're going to understand how Jesus doesn't necessarily rewrite the law, but reframes it for us in a new way of thinking that's really critical for us to understand. Jesus at one point said, I didn't come to abolish the law. He says, but I've come to fulfill it. And so we have to understand that. And that's what this Lenten season is about. Today we're going to look at the 4th commandment. Jesus was always getting in trouble with the religious authorities for breaking the 4th commandment too, not keeping the Sabbath. Remember, this comes from Exodus. This is the 4th commandment. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Exodus 20. You have 6 days each week for ordinary week, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your servants, your livestock. Everyone living in this land is to keep the Sabbath. 6 days, and they points back to Genesis, how God created everything in 6 days, and on the seventh he rested. And so this is a foundational law, commandment for the Jewish people. It's their identity. In fact, the Jews were then thinking, okay, we've got this one phrase, remember to observe the Sabbath, keep it holy. How do we do that? What does that look like? How do we observe the Sabbath? How do we keep it holy? And along with this command, the rabbis who would continue to compile, first it was an oral tradition, then it was assimilated, brought together, collated into a document. There's 39 melahot. This is 39 ways to live out, to honor the Sabbath. And so you should look that phrase up, melahot, M-E-L-A-C-H-O-T. It's a Hebrew word. And so it really means, the works. In fact, I've got it right here. It means literally 39 forms of work. And so they were kind of saying, let's make sure we spell out what work is and what work isn't. And there's little exceptions. It's really a fascinating document when you look at it. But there's all manner of things. The meaning of work, and it would look at things from, how we work in the tabernacle, the order of making bread, which really gets from, planting to harvesting to threshing, all of the stuff that would detail work of making bread, to clothing, the stuff that we put on and how we couldn't weave or hem or sew. So there's all manner of stuff here in this it's called the melahot. Melahot. It's actually a hard CH kind of, So I'm not good at that. So yeah, pull this off the internet and read through it and understand, that the Hebrews were really identifying. They're the only culture. This is really fascinating too, because of all the other cultures around them, they are the one culture that has set aside one day in 7. And so they hold on to it in this season. No other cultures set this apart. And so this has become their identity. It's a huge part of what it means to be Jewish, is to hold this one day holy. And so they wanted to make sure they got it right. They extended what was said in Exodus 20 into greater details. And enter now into this Jesus challenging, he's the rabbi, right? This new rabbi, challenging the meaning of the Sabbath and how it should be observed. And there are 6 narratives in the Gospels where Jesus wrestles with authorities over the Sabbath. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the synoptic Gospels we call them, synoptic, same Gospels, because they share a lot of the story. They share 2 stories of Jesus on the Sabbath. And then Luke adds 2 more stories. And then John adds 2 unique stories to the mix. And so, we've got a total of 6 conflicts where Jesus butted heads with the religious leaders over the Sabbath. Today, our gospel lesson looks at the story of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John, we're going to look at Luke's version of this story. And you got to also understand, the cool thing about these different versions is that they provide clues. Each writer is trying to tell a little bit different perspective on what was happening in the story, or they come at it from a little bit different frame of reference because of their own wiring and their personalities and who they are. So it's a beautiful thing that we've got these 3 synoptic gospels that speak collectively into the story, and they bring in details in different ways. So Luke chapter 6, you heard the gospel lesson. On another Sabbath day, a man with a deformed hand. Now, the moment you hear on another Sabbath day, Luke's given us a little clue there, right? Oh, what was the first Sabbath day? Or is there more than one? And so immediately, you go back and you realize, okay, yeah, Luke chapter 6, verse 1 is another story about Sabbath breaking by Jesus. So connecting these 2 stories together, Luke chapter 6, verse 1, and then Luke chapter 6, verse 6. In this first incident, Jesus' disciples are hungry. They're on the Sabbath. They're walking through a wheat field. And so it's just like, grabbing a snack at 7-Eleven. They grab some heads of wheat and they rub it between their palms to separate the chaff out. And what they're left with are some kernels, and they pop them in their mouth, right? So they're doing this, and the Pharisees see this, and they accuse them of breaking the Sabbath by harvesting grain. Remember the melahot, right? No reaping, no threshing, no purification. None of the processes for making bread. Even in between those processes, it's not even just making bread, it's all of it in between. And so they were separating the wheat from the chaff. All of these things are not to be done. And so Jesus reminds them of how David and his soldiers, they ate bread that had been set apart for the priest in the holy temple. And so Jesus saying, come on, folks, you got this thing backwards here. And then he said, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. And we should claim that. But it's fascinating because Luke at this point, after Jesus says this, we don't have any further dialogue with the Pharisees in this story. We don't have Luke adding in any more commentary. All we have is Jesus saying these words, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. And so we who are God's people, we're going to go, okay, yeah, we get it. Because Jesus is really trying to say, this is what the Sabbath is about. You've twisted it and distorted it. And now he offers this other story in Luke chapter 6, verse 6, of where Jesus is in the synagogue. And so we're going to pick up that. It leads into this text. Luke, the physician, mentions that there's this man with a deformed hand, and then he even acknowledges it's his right hand. And you go, okay, Luke's a doctor. He's going to make sure he gets all the details in the story. Because the other two writers, Matthew and Mark, they don't mention right hand. They just say man with a deformed hand. Luke says it's his right hand, diagnosis. So in Mark's account, Jesus knows their hearts. In Mark's account, he asks them a question. What is lawful to do? What is lawful? To do good or evil? To save life or kill it? He's asking this question because he knows what they're thinking. If he's going to heal this man on the Sabbath, that's breaking the commandment. But his accusers said nothing. And so Mark says that Jesus looked at them with anger. And he's deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. And Jesus is upset with what they have done, what they're about, how they have elevated law over love. We as Christ followers, we understand it, but we still see it in churches, don't we? We still see it in our country where we've got Christians who are claiming, well, the law says illegal immigrants, right? And I said, well, the law's wrong. Laws don't have to, just because they're laws don't mean they're loving or they're right. And so in this case, Jesus is grieving and angry because these Pharisees are holding up the law as a truth, something to check the box on, but there's no love in it. No love at all. So Jesus brings this man over to himself to model what God really cares about. And Jesus said, stretch out your hand. And it says the hand was restored. Now note, this is kind of amazing too. This is one of the few healings that Jesus has done where the person has not requested to be healed, has not done anything on their own to come towards Jesus, has not been questioned by Jesus to engage with their faith. It's just this man's, at the right place at the right time. And he does what Jesus says. It's kind of like, those of you who are lucky enough to get the COVID vaccine right now. You just got to be sometimes at the right place at the right time. We've heard those stories, haven't we? Well, if we don't use it on you, it's going to go bad. And so here's Jesus taking this man and healing him. And I'm thinking of my own grandfather who he worked in the railroad, and I don't know how the accident was. We never got the story, but his hand had been smashed by a railroad car. And his hand was literally like this with an indentation in this part. And he couldn't use it. He would use it, but he couldn't use it the way God designed it to be used. And I think about that man whose hand, it was a Sabbath. Okay, come back tomorrow, man, right? No, Jesus knows it's love over law. Also note that, was Jesus really working? He didn't lift a finger. He just said to the man, stretch out your hand. Take this hand that's not working and stretch it out. The man did the work. Yet the Jewish leaders were connecting the dots. And it was the beginning of the ministry where Jesus' actions and teachings were challenged. And Luke goes on to say, okay, keep track. All the ways that Jesus challenges the status quo of a religion that is missing the point of why God called them and chose them. Jesus did not come to abolish the law, but the law was also not given as some arbitrary rules to follow to kind of say, look, I'm better than this person because I got a higher mark. I keep more of the law. There's a why behind what God says. God isn't on a power kick, right? He's not ladling out laws just to kind of, keep us in line, to make people miserable. God offers us a common day of rest and worship. It's important. It's what we need, 1 day in 7. You see, the Sabbath is a gift to us, both physically. Our bodies need rest. I don't know, how many days you can going and going and going without finally clunking, going out, because we need to recharge physically. And this thing up here needs to recharge. Our souls need to recharge. And we also need to be taught, because this is another reason the commandment was given. We need to know that the universe will do just fine without our effort, that God is in control of all of this. And so God doesn't need us working 7 days to make sure, the earth keeps functioning. This is a reminder, this 1 day in 7 for the Hebrew people and for us, is that this is a day to rest, to acknowledge God's got this, and that we don't need to perpetually be in motion, right? But man, 21st century United States, right? We're supposed to walk by grace, because by his wounds we are healed. But man, do we take that grace and then just kind of not care at all? We go 7 days a week. Yeah. And I've been there. How many of us have been disappointed, like after a Sunday service, pre-COVID days, where we drive and say, oh man, I could really go for a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And you go, oh, it's closed, right? And so we're like, why are they closed on Sunday? Really? Because they've chosen to honor the Sabbath. Or in our case, the Christians move Friday night, Saturday on to Sunday, the day Jesus was resurrected. 1 day in 7. We live in a 24/7 culture. No blue laws. Everything's crammed into the weekends, right? We get 2 days that are discretionary in many ways. And so we try to fit as much into it as we can. Hard to believe there was a time when everything was closed on Sundays. Our culture was different, right? Blue laws. Amos talked about this. This is, and if you haven't read Amos, he'll make you squirm. But Amos really comes down hard on those who have wealth and those who accumulate more at the expense of those who don't have. And so here he is in this passage. He says, hear this, you who trample the needy and do away with the poor of the land, saying, when will the new moon be over, that we may sell grain, and the Sabbath be ended, that we may market wheat? He's pointing his finger at those who don't want to rest because they're so consumed with this that they don't want to honor God. They want to just keep taking money, taking more and more and more. Greed, right? We've seen that in our culture. Greed is good, right? There's a line from a movie. Greed is good? Really? The Sabbath for us is a gift we've refused to unwrap. Get that? Jesus, the one who was accused of breaking the Sabbath on numerous occasions, gave us this gift, the Sabbath. Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. And then at that other passage at the end, he says, humans, weren't made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for humans. Jesus gave us this amazing principle. And that's what we really got to cling on to back up this fourth commandment. The Sabbath was made for us, not us for the Sabbath. The Sabbath doesn't rule us. We use the Sabbath. It's a gift from God if we use it right. And that's the big question. And that's why Jesus got angry, because folks were not using it right. Are we not using it right, or are we even using it at all? And both of those fall short of what God desires for us. How would Jesus call us to live and rest differently? We've got to reflect on that. Don't just dismiss that question. This might be get alone time with God. And say, I have not thought about the Sabbath, especially in COVID season where all the days run together. How are you keeping the Sabbath? And not just, giving God an hour on Sunday mornings. A Sabbath day, right? Day. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm pointing the finger at me. I'm task-oriented. And the inbox is always full. Pastors' jobs are never done, and there's always stuff to be done. And when I'm not doing church stuff, I'm doing the finances and Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Should have wore that hat that I wear, right? All of us fall short. All of us are loved by God. All of us are in need of mercy. Jesus was accused of breaking the Sabbath, but he didn't. We have broken the Sabbath, possibly every week, and we have not been accused. In our culture, we've not been accused because everyone's doing it, and we just march along with the lemmings. We've not been accused or punished or arrested, right? By Jesus' wounds, we are healed. So it would be good for us this week to reflect on the meaning and purpose of the Sabbath. I mean, really get alone with God. How you can and you should keep it. I know some people have to work to make ends meet on Sundays. Can we find another day? One day in 7. Can we find a couple of hours every day? Is there a way for us to find rest and reflection in God? And to reflect on how you've broken it and ignored this gift. And it'd be good to reflect on how Jesus has healed us, brought us forgiveness. By his wounds, we are healed. You need to read Isaiah 53 and keep that in front of you as well, because that text reminds us all we like sheep have gone astray. And yet the punishment that brought us peace was on Jesus. We have broken the law. We fall short. Lord, have mercy. So whatever's been our practice, it's morning by morning, new mercies I see. We can determine to unwrap this gift that God has given us. He's given us this gift. If you're a couple with small children, tag team it. One day, hey, Dad, you got the kids today so that Mom can have her Calgon moment. And then vice versa. Mom, you got the kids so that Dad can kind of recalibrate and rethink and get connected to God. We need it in our souls. Then it's a time of fasting, of self-denial. I'm wearing my cross. If you've got your necklace cross, keep it handy. Put it on every day. Remind yourself to take up your cross daily and follow Jesus. But consider in this season fasting from work, one day in 7. You can look up, like I said, the Melahot and see what that would look like. No housework, no home improvements, no bringing work from home, no children's homework. I know Sunday nights, that's what we do, right? Got to get ready for school. What if it's done Friday night or Saturday night rather than Sunday night? Ways again to say, we're going to set this day apart. What gift would that be for your children if you do have small ones? To go, okay, we're not doing anything. No sports, no. We are going to enjoy family time. We're not going to make it a legalism. We're going to enjoy it. And that's important too. We're going to spend time playing games together or talking together or making food in a way that's not work but enjoyable. Doing those things together. Also remember that by his wounds devotion. I'm trying to find my copy. We're going to put out copies of this in the mail slot outside near the entranceway of the downstairs office. Read through every day, just a little bit of something to keep us centered and keep us sorted. And it's included in that Lent kit that we talked about last week. We've got some extras of those. You want to pick one up today. Otherwise, we can try to find ways to get them to folks. It's hard to do because we don't have a porch. I just say stick them outside and let you come pick them up, but we don't have any place that's weatherproof. So, but remember those things. And then remember this, I'm really excited about this. This from fasting to feasting, this little poem that we have, that 20 of you have said, yeah, I want to participate in recording that together. So we get to see each other. So as you click through after the message, fast from judging others, feast on the Christ within, fast from work, feast on rest. That's a message we all need to hear. Let's pray for that right now. Father, in your grace, I pray for today, this first Sunday of Lent, that we begin to move forward in not trying to be legalistic, but also not ignoring the law because we don't care anymore because grace abounds. That's called antinomianism, big word. Lord God, Should we sin so that grace may abound the more? And Paul says, surely not. We live by grace, but we also live by love, and we should love the law because God gave it to us for a reason, for a purpose, to set us apart, to make us holy, to allow us to commune with God and be connected to Him. So God, I pray in this season of Lent that we would just go deeper. Not strive harder, but just relax more in you. I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody, be blessed. Talk to you later.